I want to talk about technology and the role of technology in the potential agency of the future. And when I speak about technology, I'm thinking about information and communication technologies. So certainly ICT, information communication technologies, have been very important in changing the behavior of our everyday lives in a substantial way, to the point where, to a certain extent, we're often overwhelmed by devices we can't handle. Right? I mean, we all know we shouldn't text and drive, and yet people text and drive, right? And I mean that to a certain extent quite seriously, because one of the issues with the technologies that are available is there's so much opportunity that it's hard to know what to do, and we can actually be overwhelmed by it. So what I want to talk about is technology's relationship to innovation. In particular, I want to talk about a particular example which can hopefully foster some ideas around this. Certainly ICTs, any conversation of agencies of the future, ICTs are going to play a role in that, in the internal functioning of the settlement sector, but also in the potential external functioning of the settlement sector, meaning the kinds of services that are being provided. So this is not unique to this area, though. It's something which is being encountered by all areas of society and the economy. We've all probably heard about the big threats and the collapse of the music industry, the publishing industry, book publishing industry. Journalism is bleeding red. Movies are having big anxieties about its survival. And this is all because of the fact that we are living in the time of the information flood. There is information everywhere. And one of the themes which sort of emerged in the past couple of days was, for new immigrants, how do they actually find the information? Because there's so much out there, how do you actually navigate to the flood and actually find what's useful for yourself? So that's a challenge. What I want to show is an example of a potential opportunity, to come back to what Carl mentioned about don't waste the crisis, the challenge and an opportunity. Yesterday and today we've heard about people talking about the importance of more pre-arrival settlement services. Sandra Harder talked about it yesterday. And we also heard from Vicky and from Leah about how important the web is as a source of information for newcomers. So I want to talk about a promising practice here, a promising practice from the University of Manitoba, where I used to be. They have initiated this idea called Start Your Degree Before You Leave Home. So it's online course from University of Manitoba, and I've highlighted the parts which says, start your degree online before you can come to Canada, right? Turn delays, such as a waiting time for your travel documents and funds, to time well spent on your degree. And it's interesting, what they've done is they've targeted a very particular community, right? I'm going to read it from here. Located in Winnipeg, if you look at the left-hand column, located in Winnipeg, the capital of Manitoba, our university attracts the world's brightest students. Our city is home to almost 60,000 residents of Filipino descent. Tagalog is the second most spoken language in Winnipeg. You'll be joining a university in a Filipino culture that feels like home. So this is targeted very specifically to the Philippines. And this is in Winnipeg, which has a very large Filipino population, right? In fact, it's kind of the hub of the Filipino population in North America. A lot of Filipino television comes out of Winnipeg, right? So they've targeted this overseas group for doing online courses through University of Manitoba. Now just hold that for a minute. Hold that thought. One of the big initiatives in my field in education is MOOCs. MOOCs is a word which stands for Massive Online Open Courses. There are three major players in the field of MOOCs. One is called Coursera. They're based out of Stanford. They have several hundreds of courses. They're available free, right? Coursera has over 5 million users. I think the numbers might even be there. Over 5 million users, over 542 courses. Okay, these are free. A second player is Udacity, also based out of Stanford, but they've actually cut off their relationship with Stanford. And the third one is edX, which is based out of MIT and Harvard. These are courses which are available for free. The very first MOOC, interestingly, actually started in Canada. The first massive open online course started in Canada in 2008 at the University of Manitoba, actually. And the interesting thing about it is it's free. which is unheard of in a lot of higher education. And because it's free, it gets massive enrollments. I'm involved with the MOOC at Penn State on creativity and innovation and change. It has 129,000 students. It's a lot of students to teach to. But one can parse out the differences among these students. Within that course, they talk about the tourists, the adventurers, and the explorers. So the tourists are the people who are just looking. They just want to see, right? And they may not be interested in accreditation. They may not be interested in doing the whole thing. The adventurers may just want a particular section of the course. And then the explorers actually want to go through the whole course, right? So the other thing about the MOOC is that they have a huge amount of international students. The MOOCs that we are offering at Penn State have over 70% international students. Of 129,000, you can do the math on that, right? It's over 80,000 students. Okay, there's some really interesting potential here. But one of the challenges with MOOCs is, okay, it's free, how do you fund this? Right? You're not charging students for it. How do you fund it? For Coursera and edX, well, they have these very highly prestigious universities involved with it. And these universities can actually garner a lot of philanthropy and funding. So they're both funded by foundations, right? But Udacity has a different model. Udacity, what they do is they match students with employers. They're assembling, to talk about what Mayor mentioned as the value proposition, the value added of what the settlement sector does. They're assembling. So they say, okay, we have this course, we have thousands of students, a lot of them are from overseas. We can actually figure out who the top students are, what their skills are, from how they go through the course, and use that information to connect to employers, right? And who do they charge? They charge the employers, right? So that's an interesting model that they've developed. But it doesn't have to be just matching to employers. You could imagine matching to volunteer agencies, matching to universities, right? Don Curry mentioned yesterday about charging the college, right? And with this amount of information, this amount of students that you have coming through your courses, you could even find the purple squirrel potentially, right? That you mentioned yesterday. What they do is they have information about how students go through the courses, but they also watch the discussion forums. Which students are helping other students? Okay, that doesn't just tell us how they do in the course, it tells us about their social skills. It tells us about their leadership skills, about some of their soft skills, which are also important when thinking about, okay, certain agencies want more of the soft skills and not just the technical skills. Now with Udacity, they're focused just on the tech sector, right? So they're actually doing tech sector courses, a lot of computer science, natural language, interface, things like that. And they're actually hiring or connecting to tech sector people, right? Now, I want to think about the other feature on this is this really that different? Is it that much of a stretch? Because I know some of the work that some settlement sector people are doing involves job placement. I think about an example, and I know Don mentioned yesterday, I think about an example that's taking place in Calgary with Calgary's relationship, Calgary Catholic Immigration Services and Safeway, right? I was talking to Fair Boards about this, where Safeway is the second biggest employer in Alberta, after the government of Alberta, right? So they actually have somebody who actually recruits, who's an employee of Catholic Immigration Services in Calgary. They're there to serve the clients, they're there to serve the immigrants. They get information, applicants refer to them by local employment counselors and youth program officers and places like that. They do some of the interviewing, and they've placed over 2,000 people, is that right, Fair Board? Over 2,000 people to Safeway since they started this initiative. Okay, thank you. So the relationship between, what's key to making this all happen is that they have the relationships. They have the relationships with, in the case of Udacity, they have relationships with the students. In the case of CCIS, they have the relationships with the settlement sector people, but also with the potential employer here. So the key drivers to thinking about technology in the future, the devices, the technology, that's important. But that's going to keep changing, right? But the key drivers are the relationships, collecting data, and doing it honestly, not in the NSA or Apple kind of way where they sell the information to somebody else, but doing it honestly and being upfront about it, and making that connection between the data and the relationships. That's the key driver. And that's the potential which technology can afford, it can allow for, right? And because of that, there's possibilities for new funding streams, new revenue models, right? So that's what I really want to think of, what I really want to leave you with, and I know we're really short on time, is thinking about how technology can do two things. One, help improve the reach and access of current services, and two, how it can actually change the kind of services you provide, right? The issues to consider is the main driver, the main question has to be access, right? We heard a lot in the past couple of days around the issue around distance, or immigrants being able to actually get access to the services, right? The other things to consider is there are spaces where high tech can be useful, but there's spaces where it's not going to be useful. There's high tech and high touch. And a lot of important part of what settlement services do is the high touch. That's a lot of where the trust and the social capital develops, and to recognize how to navigate that. So technology has the potential to allow organizations to take existing skills that they have and create new resources and to project them outwards to other audiences. I'm happy to talk more about this. I know we're really short on time, but I just want to leave you with some of those ideas. Thank you.